And ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I'm actually excited every time I'm doing my TV courtroom show, but I'm especially excited today, and you might ask why. Well, the answer is this. We have three great guests talking about extremely important issues. In just a couple of minutes, we're going to have a representative of Up Against the Law Legal Collective. I'll talk more about that in a second. In addition, we're going to have an author of a book entitled Black History in the Philadelphia Landscape. And we're going to wrap things up with a certified educator. In fact, this educator has been certified to teach teachers. Follow me. An educator who teaches teachers. And we're going to have that particular person on in just a couple minutes after we talk about Up Against the Law and after we talk about the book. So if you want information regarding progressive activism, stay tuned. If you want important information regarding the history of Black folks in Philadelphia, stay tuned. If you want information about education here in Philadelphia, especially as it affects Black students and brown students and poor white students, keep your dial locked. And your dial right here is TV Courtroom with yours truly, attorney Michael Cord, aka Michael X, aka the angriest Black man in America. So fasten your seatbelts, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, and we'll get right to it. One of the things I want to say before we get Nathaniel lined up is this weekend is an important weekend in Philadelphia history, in Pennsylvania history, in American history. Progressives and leftists and revolutionaries and even moderates and liberals have decided that enough is enough. They realize that we're as close to Hitler as Germany was before he took power. We're as close to Mussolini as Italy was before he took over. We're as close to Francisco Franco as Spain was before Franco took over. Well, we're not going to have that nonsense here in America, despite what you see in the media, despite the fact that not only racist, fascist Republicans have given Orange Hitler the green light to do what he's doing, but weak-kneed, timid Democrats have just sat there and watched it take place. Fortunately, we have folks who are stepping up to the plate and fighting back. And there's an organization called Up Against the Law Legal Collective. That's Up Against the Law Legal Collective. And the best way to describe this progressive / revolutionary organization is this. If you want to exercise your First Amendment rights to assembly, to speech, to petition the government, you need a resource that lets you know what's good and lets you know what's bad, that lets you know what you should do and lets you know what you shouldn't do. And again, that organization is called Up Against the Law Legal Collective. And one of their representatives, Nathaniel, is going to join us in just a few seconds and provide us with some important information about what's taking place this weekend. Many of you have heard throughout the media and on social media about the No Kings protest. And although it's called the No Kings protest, maybe even better, it should be the No Fascist protest, because that's exactly where we're headed if people don't stand up. And I mentioned this group, Up Against the Law Legal Collective, because it is the go-to group. It's the resource. It's the clearinghouse for everything that an activist needs to know about what to do and what not to do. For more information about this important organization, this timely organization, this revolutionary organization, you need to go to the website, which is upagainstthelaw.org. Or even better, you can email them because they put out their phone number and they put out their email address. The problem, though, is there are people who, I guess they just want to chit chat with some revolutionaries. So they will call for reasons that are not an emergency. So here's the deal. You can reach Up Against the Law Legal Collective 24/7 for any reason. Email them at support@upagainstthelaw.org. That's support, SUPPORT, support@upagainstthelaw.org. And if you have any questions about anything, they'll get back to you in a timely manner. Once again, this is Up Against the Law. Formal name, official name is Up Against the Law Legal Collective, but we call it Up Against the Law. So again, that's the email address, support@upagainstthelaw.org. If you're at the protest and there's an emergency taking place, you're about to get arrested or comrades are about to get arrested, that's an emergency. You can call Up Against the Law at 484-758-0388. Once again, that's 484-758-0388. And I encourage folks to spread the word, because this is the revolution happening now. Many of you know about Gil Scott-Heron, where he had one of the greatest songs in music history, "The Revolution Will Not Be Televised." Many people thought that Gil meant you won't see the revolution on TV. And people are like, what do you mean you won't see it? We'll have TV cameras out there, of course you'll see it. That's not what Gil Scott-Heron meant. When he wrote the song, "The Revolution Will Not Be Televised," he said this: the stuff you see on the streets with people demonstrating and protesting and confronting the system and taking it to the man, when you see that, that's not the revolution. And Gil was right about that. Gil said that's the after effect, that's the manifestation. He said the real revolution happens in your head. You have to realize mentally, you have to realize intellectually, you have to realize emotionally that a change is needed, and that change is needed right now. That's the revolution. And you can't televise what's in the person's head. So when Gil Scott-Heron said the revolution will not be televised, he meant that the real revolution is in your head. The manifestation of that is on the streets. Again, for more information about Up Against the Law Legal Collective, all you need to do is to go to the website, and our great producer / engineer Riley put it right up there for you, upagainstthelaw.org. You go to that website, you'll be able to get more information. You'll also be able to get the phone number and the email address, which I'll be happy to share with you now. But that's the most important thing. The website and the phone number, 484-758-0388. Once again, 484-758-0388. And for those of you who might have questions, you can always email Up Against the Law at support@upagainstthelaw.org. That's support@upagainstthelaw.org. I'm just the pretty face here on the show. I'm the Denzel Washington, but it's the folks behind the scenes, behind the cameras, who are putting this stuff out there for you so you can see and hear everything. And it's really important that folks join in the No Kings protest tomorrow, that folks join in the No Fascist protest tomorrow, because we don't want to be in the same position that Germany was before it was too late. We don't want to be in the same position that Italy was in before it was too late. We don't want to be in the same position that Spain was in before it was too late. The name Donald Trump is going to be synonymous with the name Adolf Hitler for what Trump is trying to do, synonymous with Mussolini because of what Trump is trying to do, synonymous with Francisco Franco because of what Trump is trying to do. But folks are fighting back. Folks are resisting. So again, for more information, reach out to Up Against the Law Legal Collective. By the way, I have to take the blame here. We were hoping to get one of the members of Up Against the Law on, but because of my hectic trial schedule, I'm also a full-time criminal defense attorney who specializes in capital punishment representation. Because I was tied up with a bunch of those cases and trying to resolve issues, I didn't get a chance to reach out to Up Against the Law Legal Collective until the very last minute, and they're trying to get somebody to come on. But if they can, great, we'll go to them. If we can't, reach out to them. Again, thanks to Riley, our producer, our engineer, who put all of this stuff together, as you can see on the screen. Go to the website, upaginstthelaw.org, email the group, support@upaginstthelaw.org, or in cases of emergencies only, all you have to do is dial 484-758-0388. And again, I got to give a big shout out to Riley. Looks like we have gotten our guest. So in just a couple seconds, you'll see on the screen our guest from Up Against the Law Legal Collective. And we actually had a case already, I should say a show already lined up. But I realized that we got to get somebody from Up Against the Law Legal Collective. So we pushed back some of our other guests, and we're going to go to our guests from Up Against the Law so that you'll know in a much clearer way than I just explained to you what's going on in terms of plans for tomorrow. So as soon as we get Nathaniel up, we will introduce him to some of you and introduce him to many others. If you know anything about activism in the city, then you know about him. Let me say hello to you, Nathaniel. First of all, how are you today? And Nathaniel, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thank you very much. I'm going to turn it over to you, Nathaniel, for the next 7 to 8 minutes. And I just want you to share with the audience whatever's important. But first, before that, Nathaniel, I got to thank you because it was at the very last minute that I reached out to you and Up Against the Law, and you all came through, and I really appreciate that. So, Nathaniel, the next 7 to 8 minutes are yours. What do people need to know?
Thank you, Mike. You always show up for defend folks when they've been arrested and are getting ground through the cogs of our so-called criminal justice system. So happy to show up for you. I think you summarized pretty well what's happening tomorrow. Tens of thousands of people will be in Philadelphia to protest against the onset of fascism. Basically, you can find all the information about the where, the when, the who. There's a whole huge range of organizations that are sponsoring it. I'm not going to go into that now, but I do want to speak a little bit about how to stay safe on the street, because we keep each other safe. That's the important thing. You're going to see a lot of people out there and meet a lot of people you've never met before, and that's awesome. And you should get to know people you learn there, what brings you out onto the streets tomorrow. But you should also remember that there will be undercover police. There will be people trying to gather information, and just should not talk to cops. So it's okay to share details, what motivates you, why you're out in the street. But if people start asking you really detailed, specific questions, you feel a little bit, why are they asking these things? It's okay just to say, hey, I don't know so well. Maybe I don't want to go into all of that now. The same goes too if police come to you and talk to you on the street. You can just politely say, hey, I'm here to express my First Amendment rights. We still have those rights in this country. Thank you. Have a nice day. You are never under any obligation to talk to the police. You're also never under obligation to show the police ID if you're at a protest. If you're driving in a car, that's a different matter. But if you're on the street at a protest, you are not obligated to show your ID to the police. Unless the police are detaining you for some reason, you're not obligated to even identify yourself. You can just say, hey, I'm here to express my First Amendment rights. Have a great day. We keep each other safe. If you see police or fascists or anybody out there harassing people, go up to them, record them. It is your right to record the police. It is your right to record fascists that are harassing people. In Pennsylvania, there is no expectation of privacy in a public space. Some of the best ways that we as Up Against the Law have to document police abuse and to help people that get arrested is just citizens out there that are recording with their cameras, things that the police are doing. So we keep each other safe. Don't talk to cops. If something makes you suspicious and uneasy, just say, hey, I'm going to be moving on. Some very basic things in terms of police interactions. If for some reason the do stop you, you should ask them, am I detained? If you are not being detained, you are completely to walk by and say, now I'm on my way. If for some reason you are, and this goes for tomorrow, this goes for every day of the rest of your life, if you are ever in police custody, if the police are ever trying to question you, simply exercise your right to remain silent. All you have to do is say, I am going to remain silent. I want to speak to my attorney. Against the Law works with a lot of really great attorneys, including Michael Cord, and they've always been here to represent people that are arrested for exercising your First Amendment rights. We're going to have
In fact, Nathaniel, let me just quickly jump in because, again, I really want to thank you personally and Up Against the Law in general, because you all dropped what you were doing to respond to my call to be on the show. So at first, I want the audience to appreciate that. Thank you. The second thing, this, in our final minute, Nathaniel, what do you say to people who say, well, Nathaniel is being paranoid? There's not going to be any undercover cops there. There's not going to be any agent provocateur. What's your response?
There might be, there might not be, but I think it's always best to exercise caution. Apologize for the train that went by. I think it's always good to exercise caution. You don't need to be running around looking over your shoulder every second looking for undercover cops. But if somebody is asking questions, making you feel uncomfortable, you don't have to answer them. Just say, hi, thank you. It was nice to meet you. Have a nice day. You might see some of us out there tomorrow. Up Against the Law is going to have a number of folks. You'll see us with pink T-shirts that say Up Against the Law Legal Observer. You'll also see people from the National Lawyers Guild. They're wearing green hats, and we work with them as well. They'll be legal observing. We all work together. We all are here to help keep you safe. And all of us, every one of us on the streets tomorrow, we keep each other safe. So thank you very much.
And again, Nathaniel, if I could thank you a million times, I would, because you all literally dropped what you were doing to be here. In our final seconds, if folks have questions, is there an email address? Is there a phone number? Is there a website?
Yes, they can go to upaginstthelaw.org. There's a ton of information there, as well as how to email us and to get in touch.
Nathaniel, once again, I really appreciate, when I meet young people like you, I feel great because I can retire. I don't have to be on the streets anymore raising hell. I can leave it up to you all, and I appreciate it. I got to tell you, the future is bright because of young people like you, and I truly mean that. Keep up the great work.
Talk to you later, Mike.
All right. Thanks again. That was a great last-minute interview with Nathaniel of Up Against the Law. And they're out on the streets. They're organizing. They're getting work done. And we reached out to them. I reached out to them at the very last minute. They dropped what they were doing. They were juggling things, see who's available at home, who's available at the office, who's available on the street with a cell phone. They were able to track down Nathaniel, and he provided us with the information we needed. Speaking of the information we needed, I want to give a big shout out to our producer / engineer, Riley, because he put the information up several times. The website, upagainstthelaw.org, the email address, support@upagainstthelaw.org, and the phone number. The phone number is for emergencies only. If you're about to get arrested or someone you're with, one of your comrades, that number, 484-758-0388, 484-758-0388. Once again, thank you, Nathaniel. And folks, we're going to shift gears right now and go to another guest who's going to talk about a totally different topic, but it's just as important. In fact, it has the utmost historical importance. Anybody who knows anything about me, they probably know from about almost 25 years ago in 2002, when my group, Avenging the Ancestors Coalition, we fought for a slave memorial at America's first White House. And while we're lining up our next guest, Amy Jane Cohen, I just want to let folks know for the next 30 seconds before we talk to Amy this. Back in 2002, it was announced in the newspapers that the Liberty Bell Center, which then was at 5th and Market, was going to move 1 block west to 6th and Market. And we in the Black community said, interesting, but not really relevant to us. Then the second thing we found out again in 2002 is that that Liberty Bell Center moving to 6th and Market would be where America's first White House stood. We said, wow, we didn't know America's first White House from Philadelphia. Interesting, but again, not really relevant to Black folks. But the third thing we found out, once again, in 2002, is that the new site of the Liberty Bell Center at 6th and Market, where America's first White House stood beginning in 1790, is where George Washington enslaved Black men, women, and children. I was born and raised in Philly, didn't know that. I went to Masterman and didn't know that. I went to Cheney University, America's first HBCU, didn't know that. Went to Ohio State Law School, didn't know anything about that. But once we found out, we fought and fought and fought, and 8 years later, in 2010, it was the grand opening of the first, I repeat, the first slave memorial of its kind on federal property in the history of the United States, right here in Philly at 6th and Market. That story is told so thoroughly by Amy Jane Cohen, the author of Black History in the Philadelphia Landscape. So I wanted to have her on so she could talk about that. People who know me know that I love to talk, but I'm turning this over for the next 10, 12 minutes to Amy. And first say, Amy, how are you today?
I'm good, Michael. It's always nice to see you.
Amy, that's an understatement. You're great, but thank you for being so modest. Amy, tell us about an upcoming event, and in connection with that, tell us about your book, Black History in the Philadelphia Landscape. And I might chime in with a couple questions, but right now, the next 10, 12 minutes, all yours.
Oh, okay. Well, I certainly hope you chime in. But I wrote this book, as Michael said, Black History in the Philadelphia Landscape, where I tell actually 19 different stories of Philadelphia Black history from the 1600s to the 1960s, and how those individuals or events or institutions are represented in the landscape, whether it's through a monument, some kind of memorial, a historical marker, a mural, a street name, and so forth. And my book came out in February 2024. I've done upwards of 70 book talks at this point. And the story that I tell the most often when I'm giving a book talk is the story that Michael just briefly went over, the story of the President's House Memorial, and how initially the National Park Service didn't want to even acknowledge slavery at the President's house. And yet over the course of less than 10 years, an entire memorial on federal property was erected, dedicated not to George Washington and John Adams, who had resided there, but dedicated to the enslaved people who had toiled there. And I tell that story more than any other because it really encapsulated the way that the landscape can change once our historical understanding of the past changes. And of course, if there's enough political will, activism, as happened at the President's house under Michael's leadership. And the other reason that I tell that story the most is that it was really seen as a sea change in how the Park Service was willing to look at Black history, and particularly Philadelphia Black history. And when my book first came out and I told that story, primarily above all the others, it was a much more optimistic time. I kind of had this thesis that the 21st century has seen just this burgeoning of recognition of Black history in the Philadelphia landscape, whether it's the 36 new historical markers that have been erected relevant to Black history in the 21st century, whether it's the Caddo Memorial, the memorial to Dinah at Stenton. You know, I just had all these examples, and I would end on a happy note. The atmosphere, the political atmosphere, the all of that has really, really changed since Trump has been in office. So
Let me quickly chime in there, Amy, and I'm so glad you touched on that. Would you say you're pessimistic about the future? And if you are, should we give up the fight?
I'm optimistic about Philadelphia's future, and that's what I'll be talking about for the Free Library this coming Wednesday at 11 a.m. Because in Philadelphia, there's been so much grassroots, community-led efforts to change the environment, to tell more Black history stories. And as long as people keep working together to, for example, change the name of Taney Street to honor Caroline LeCount rather than Roger B. Taney, the Chief Justice who wrote the Dred Scott decision. There are so many examples of just regular folk making efforts to learn about Black history, to share it with others, and then to alter the landscape. And in Philadelphia, in very recent years, in addition to these alterations of the landscape, we just have these amazing young people doing work. I'm sure you're familiar with the, have to shout out the 1838 Black Metropolis Project. I mean, if anyone out there, just Google those words and you will go to a website that will blow your mind. And it's only a couple years old. And what they do is really recreate Black Philadelphia in this antebellum period and show just what a vibrant community it was, how deep that community's roots were, how many thriving institutions had been developed. There was a conference that I was fortunate to attend and present at the Historical Society the last weekend in April. That was a teach-in about Black history in Philadelphia, but it wasn't an academic conference, so there were academic people attending. It was about regular people who had some kind of passion about telling Black history stories. There was a group of people who are commemorating the old West Philadelphia High School that's now been turned into lofts. There was a guy, retired, I think, electrical engineer who became obsessed with the Black businessman and abolitionist and organizer of escapes along the Underground Railroad, Stephen Smith. And so we have a large but connected community of people working on local Black history. And fortunately, because of these efforts over the last 25 years, most notably the President's House Memorial and the Caddo statue, we have a landscape that will not easily be altered. So, you know, I know your former guest was talking about tomorrow's protest. You know, I'm certainly going to be out there because there's just so much unprecedented stuff happening at once, because my main field and focus right now is Black history. That's what I'm, you know, most aware of, is these erasures of Black history that are being undertaken at the federal level. And so that will be the focus of my talk again.
In fact, yeah, I want you to talk a little bit about that in terms of date, time, and location. Those who just tuned in, we're talking to author Amy Jane Cohen, author of a powerful book entitled Black History in the Philadelphia Landscape. When I say powerful, I mean enlightening. I like to think I know everything there is to know about Philadelphia's Black history, but I opened this book up and was like, wow, there's so much I didn't know. And I encourage folks to get that book. Before I go to my key question though, Amy, how can folks get a copy of the book? Where can they go to get it?
Okay, well, in terms of getting the book and finding out about this talk I'm giving on Wednesday, they can go to amyjanecohen.com. And if they go to my events page, they can register for the Zoom talk I'm giving on Wednesday. There's also other events that I have coming up. I have one in Germantown on the June 26th. But also in terms of getting the book, I mean, you can order it online. There's links on my website, but I suggest going to Uncle Bobby's, going to Booked in Chestnut Hill, going to Harriet's Bookshop, independent bookstores. Narberth Bookshop, I know, carries it. So, and if you're too lazy to go out and go to a bookstore, I suggest going to bookshop.org and then choosing one of those places that I mentioned, like Uncle Bobby's, Harriet's, Narberth.
And those who are tuning in, when I first found out about this event taking place on Wednesday, June the 18th at 11 a.m. at the Free Library, I immediately told Amy I'll be there. She's like, calm down, Michael. It's no place to be because it's a Zoom presentation. I'd have been standing there in the library waiting to see her, but I will be watching her on the Zoom presentation this Wednesday, June 18th, 11 a.m. And folks can just repeat again, Amy, where folks can go to register for the Zoom.
amyjanecohen.com. Just click on events and you'll see the registration link.
And Amy,
it's free.
And that's important. You don't have to pay any money. You just have to pay attention. So as long as you pay attention, you can get in free. In our final 60 seconds, Amy, this is the TV Courtroom show. And in many courtroom proceedings, you have a chance for a closing argument. In our final 60 seconds or so, your closing argument, why should people go? Why should people watch on Wednesday, June 18 at 11 a.m.? What's the big deal?
I think the reason they should watch is they will, I can pretty much guarantee they will learn some little nugget of Black history that they're not in Philadelphia that they're not aware of. And they'll learn about these local efforts to preserve history, which is very energizing to hear about how community engagement around history brings communities together, and it brings history really from the ivory tower down to the grassroots. And it's an upbeat talk during a difficult time.
I'm so glad you framed it that way. And I told you, Amy, that was the closing argument. I'm the jury foreperson, so we're ruled in your behalf. We'll have 1,000 people going to log on this Wednesday, June 18, 2025 at 11 a.m. Amy, I really appreciate you taking time to be on the show. I appreciate you writing this book, and I appreciate you enlightening the Philadelphia area and beyond because of Zoom this Wednesday, 11 a.m., June 18th, from the Free Library. Folks, if you want to know much more than you think you know about Black history in Philly, you gotta log on. Amy, thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Michael, and have a great weekend.
Certainly, I certainly will. Great stuff from Amy Jane Cohen, the author of the great book that we referenced. And the book itself is important, but maybe even more immediately important right now is going to that site, Amy Jane Cohen, going to her site and registering for the presentation, the lecture, the talk, the enlightening conversation taking place on this coming Wednesday, June 18 at 11 a.m. Amy Jane Cohen, author of Black History in the Philadelphia Landscape. And she has a great photo of a handsome activist named Michael X. Cord Esquire in connection with the text. So if no other reason to get the book, that's the reason to get the book. But in all seriousness, folks, get the books, show up at the event by simply logging on from the comfort of your own home. Great stuff, Amy Jane Cohen. Speaking of great stuff, we're going to shift gears once again, and we're going to have Dana Carter. Dana Carter is a host of a segment on WURD entitled Education Conversations. And Dana always talks about important stuff relative to Black children in school, Latino children in school, poor white children in school, basically all children in school and what's going on with them. Every time I have Dana Carter on my show, I always say, this is so enlightening. I don't understand why the school district of Philadelphia doesn't have something like this on a regular basis, but they really don't need it. By the way, those of you who are interested in checking out Dana Carter when she's on this education conversation segment, all you have to do is to log on to WURD Radio every Saturday from 1 p.m. until 3 p.m. Dana's segment comes on at around 2:15, 2:20. I start the show at 1 o'clock and do some interactive radio stuff and then bring Dana Carter on. Before we get Dana Carter up, and we'll have her on in just a couple seconds, let me just talk briefly about her. And then for the next approximately 20 minutes or so, all you will hear is the beautiful voice of Dana Carter, and all you will see is the beautiful face of Dana Carter. Dana Carter is a teacher's teacher. She's an educator's educator. That's what she does. She teaches teachers. And she's been certified in this field for about 20 years. She's a graduate of an HBCU. She holds a master's degree. She gets into the John Lewis type of good trouble. And she's literally an international activist. And I just love having her on because she knows where the bodies are buried when it comes to the school district. So without further ado, from now, 4:07 until about 20 minutes, 4:27, the only voice you will hear is that of Dana Carter. And then when she gets me fired up, I might just jump in. So again, folks, fasten your seatbelts. Dana Carter, 20 years as a certified teacher's teacher, HBCU grad, holds a master's degree, gets into the John Lewis type of good trouble, and is literally an international activist. Dana, the camera and microphone are yours.
Thank you for that amazing introduction, Mr. Cord. It is my pleasure to be here with you all on this beautiful Friday. I'm used to coming on the show on Saturdays, but today is Friday, so it's my pleasure to be here with you all on this beautiful Friday. I just feel like I have to catch you all up on what's been going on with the school district of Philadelphia and just schools in general throughout our state and throughout our nation. I just want to make sure that you all can hear me clearly, but being as though I didn't get a message from Mr. Cord, I'm assuming that you all can hear me clearly and there are no audio issues. Okay, so I'll just get right to it. What are we talking about today? So the school district of Philadelphia definitely is reflective of what's going on out here in the world, just in terms of advocacy, in terms of oppressing advocates, in terms of uplifting individuals who, in my opinion, shouldn't be uplifted. But the issues that we see happening that Amy Cohen was just speaking about, those issues are prevalent in the school district of Philadelphia, Philadelphia schools, as well as schools throughout the city, state, and throughout our nation. So unfortunately, Philadelphia is not immune to those issues that our nation is infected by as a result of Trump being the president. So let's just get to things that specifically deal with what's going on in Philadelphia, and then we'll talk about things that are going on in the nation and in the state. So 52% of adults in Philadelphia are functionally illiterate. That's not a secret. That is a study that came out, I believe, last year through Achieve Now. They released a study and said that 52% of adults in Philadelphia are functionally illiterate. What does that mean? That means that they might be able to read a stop sign. They might be able to read a street sign. They might be able to text and communicate. However, What they are not able to do is read as if they were a fluent reader, or comprehend as if they had those foundational reading skills that they need in order to comprehend information. So because of that, and because of the recent data that's come out throughout the nation about literacy, there has been a push to improve foundational literacy as well as foundational math skills throughout the nation. But specifically, let's talk about what's going on here in Philadelphia. So Philadelphia has struggled with literacy for a very long time. And I think it's important to note that when you see things happening like Trump getting elected, or when you see things happening like 16, 17% of individuals who are registered to vote actually coming out and voting for the primary election that just happened, why is that? Like, why aren't our people going out and voting? Why aren't our people being informed voters when they vote? And I think what you have to consider is the literacy level going on in the city, not just here, but throughout the entire nation. And in order for people to make informed decisions about who should be their leader, I believe that they have to comprehend information. I believe that they have to be able to read the information. And I believe that they have to be able to teach others about that information. It doesn't have to be anything that's too complex. And because we have such a struggle with individuals being able to think critically, I think that the choices that some people make in terms of who they choose to be their leader reflects the fact that individuals don't have those critical thinking skills that they should have got when they were in school. So what happens? Like, what is the solution? So I've had a number of recommendations that I've offered the School District of Philadelphia, and I will go over those recommendations after I say what I'm about to say. One of the hot topics in Philadelphia right now as it relates to schools is the fact that the school board of Philadelphia, which is separate from the school district, we know that the school board kind of manages what's going on in terms of contracts and curriculum and vendors and all that type of stuff. But the school district of Philadelphia actually handles the operations. And what happened about 2 weeks ago is that the school board approved a charter school, approved the opening of a new charter school. And this is the first time that has happened, of course, with this specific school board, but this is the first time that the school board has approved a charter school in the last 10 years. So what's the issue with that? Why are people anti-charter? People aren't actually anti-charter. They just are pro-charter oversight. And because the charter school world, in my opinion, just needs to have more oversight, not just my opinion, in the opinion of most education advocates, the charter schools need more oversight. And until those laws change to make certain things mandatory in terms of how charter schools run, many people, many advocates are against opening more charter schools. Do they have a valid point? Or are they being biased against charter schools? Well, I think we need to look at the facts as it relates to charter schools in the city of Philadelphia. And when you look at charter schools in terms of they're reporting about the academic achievement of their students. They aren't required to report like public schools are reporting. Not only that, if a child goes to a charter school and that specific charter school feels that they don't have the proper resources in order to educate that child, that charter school, what I have seen with my own eyes, is charter schools basically bullying parents to withdraw their child. More than likely, the child has an IEP. And the reason why that child is getting bullied is because the school knows that they can't give the child what they need in terms of adhering to their individualized education plan. So instead of doing that, or instead of getting a potential lawsuit, what they do is tell the parents that we don't have the resources for your child. Or what they also do is say that your child was responsible for this specific issue that went on at this school. And if you don't want your child expelled, then you should withdraw them. I've seen both things. So when we're looking at the achievement of charter schools as it relates to public schools, I think you have to consider the fact that charter schools don't educate everybody's child. Charter schools have the autonomy to say, we don't have these resources, you have to go somewhere else. Whereas when you look at public schools, they don't have that privilege Public schools have to educate whoever you put in front of them. And if that child has an IEP and that child is not getting the services, trust and believe that that parent, if they know the system, is going to sue the school district of Philadelphia and get compensatory education services to make sure that the child gets the things that they need as it relates to following their individualized education plan, or what we call an IEP. Charter schools don't do that. So I think it's important for us to look at how and who charter schools educate before we start comparing their achievement to the achievement of regular Philadelphia public schools, especially neighborhood schools. But also, let's take a deep dive into the numbers, because you might look and say, well, there are charter schools in other places. There are charter schools in other cities. Why are individuals so passionate about not opening charter schools in the city of Philadelphia? Well, let's look at the numbers. 17% of students in Chicago attend charter schools. 17% of the students in Chicago attend charter schools. 16% of the children in New York City attend charter schools. 16%. 39% of students in Philadelphia attend charter schools. 39% of students in Philadelphia attend charter schools. So when you
Jamie, let me just jump in. How do you explain that?
This is what I need to say, and I'm trying to say this as nicely as possible. There is an influx of politicians and individuals who can financially benefit from charter schools, who press for these charter schools to get open. I have seen individuals who know that they will get contracts from charter schools if that charter school open, advocate for charters. So these people don't really have an educational a goal as to why they want the charter school open. They don't have an agenda that includes increasing the literacy rate of Philadelphia. What they're looking at is the money. And there's a lot of money in the charter world. And because these charters aren't properly monitored, in my opinion, the Philadelphia has essentially opened the floodgates, right? And so now I feel like they were trying to reel it back in. But when you have politicians who lead the city and the state and actually the country, who are pro school choice. Now, when you say pro school choice, you might say, okay, parents should have the option to choose what they want for their child. Great, yep, they should. But guess what? If I as a taxpayer, there are certain things that I don't want to fund. And if I know that this particular private school or this Catholic school is a failing school, then I don't believe that vouchers are a solution in order to increase the foundational and literacy skills in the city of Philadelphia. That's just my personal opinion. But if that is something that you want to do for your child, great. But we have individuals out here with specific political agendas. For example, I don't know if you all were paying attention to what's going on, to what happened in the school district of Philadelphia for actually the past year and a half, but there has been aggressive oppression of teachers in the school district of Philadelphia who speak the truth about Palestine. Aggressive
Talk about that. Spend a couple minutes talking about that so that people know you're not engaging in hyperbole, that this is real.
Absolutely. There has been aggressive oppression against teachers and school district of Philadelphia staff members who speak openly and tell the truth about what's going on over in Palestine. And also, in my opinion, there has been protection from individuals in the district and also individuals in the Philadelphia Federation of Teachers, that is the teachers union, who have protected people who uplift or who have actually harmed children who speak up against what's going on over in Sudan, children who speak out against what's going on over in Congo, and children who speak out against what's going on in Palestine. You have Palestinian students who feel like they can't express how they feel about what's going on over in Gaza. They feel like that they can't even express the sadness because they're losing family members as a result of genocide. And because some of these teachers, or many of the teachers who are oppressive teachers, are protected by the PFT, the Philadelphia Federation of Teachers, they aren't held accountable for their actions. connections. I don't even know why I got on that road about speaking about Palestine in the school district of Philadelphia, but there has been a lot going on in the past year and a half as it relates to teachers feeling like they can't speak the truth and oppressive tactics by individuals in leadership positions in the school district of Philadelphia to back that oppression. Now, since those things have become more public, I feel like the school district of Philadelphia now realizes the wrongs that they've done. Now, when I speak about the school district of Philadelphia, I'm not talking about one person. So I'm not talking about specifically about Dr. Watlington. I'm not talking about Colonel Eyes. I'm not talking about the one of the deputy superintendents. No, but the school district of Philadelphia, in my opinion, is an oppressive and racist system. Now, they have individuals in there who try to fight against that because there are systems in place, in my opinion, that lead to the oppression of activists. Until you revamp and revise those systems, you're going to get the same thing, whether you are talking about protect Asian rights, whether you're talking about uplifting the Latino community, whether you're talking about teaching the truth, or whether you're just talking about Black people being able to learn to read and get foundational reading and math skills. The fact that the Black children in Philadelphia public schools achieve at a drastic lower rate than their white counterparts is indicative of the historic systemic oppression that has been in Philadelphia public schools for years. And individuals such as myself, I used to be a teacher with the school district of Philadelphia, so I can give you firsthand knowledge about how Philadelphia, school district of Philadelphia, individuals in the school district of Philadelphia practice oppressive practices, and how teachers who are advocates don't get the protection that they need from the union that they pay into. So there are layers as to why, there is so much dysfunction going on, not only in the city, but in Philadelphia public schools. I know I started off talking about charter schools. If you all pay attention to what goes on Saturdays on my show, I start off talking about one thing and I usually end somewhere else, but hopefully somewhere between the beginning of the end, you all got some important information that you can use in order to navigate the educational landscape in the city of Philadelphia. But just really quickly, let me just finish what I was talking about with the charter schools in Philadelphia. Why are charter schools so prevalent in the city of Philadelphia? We have to understand the political influence. Oh, this is why I was talking about the whole thing with oppressive teachers. With the individuals who are out here promoting school choice, listen to what I'm about to say. There were teachers who were featured on a digital truck, and that truck was posted outside of the school district of Philadelphia. And these are teachers who were teaching the truth about what's going on, just not in Palestine, but what's going on over there in the world. And because individuals are conflating criticism about the genocide with being anti-Semitic, these individuals, these teachers, were written up. These teachers had to go to hearings. These, not just teachers, there were other people in the school district of Philadelphia. Now, I can't say their exact position because this is supposed to be confidential, right? Like when individuals get written up or those personnel issues, they're supposed to be confidential. But in my opinion, that confidentiality clause protects oppressors, because if the public knew the shenanigans that some of these people are doing in the school district of Philadelphia, they wouldn't be allowed to do it because it would be public pressure. It would be people out there telling them that they can't do what they are doing to these individuals who are out here speaking the truth. But when you see teachers posted on one side of the billboard, and the person who is speaking with the microphone outside of 440 in front of the digital billboard is saying, look at what this teacher says about Israel, look at what this teacher is saying about whatever it is that they're talking about when the teacher speaks the truth. But on the other side of that, on the digital billboard, you see, this is why parents need school choice. Parents need school choice to avoid people like this. These are the individuals who are backing the school choice movement. That person who had that digital billboard is a part of a media organization or a media business. I don't want to give the name, but do you know who the top donor to that media business was the previous year? The top supporter of school choice in Pennsylvania, the richest man in Pennsylvania, Jeff Yass. If you Google his name is synonymous with school choice. But these are the individuals who are aligned with the school choice movement. So when you see individuals who look like me and they're out here promoting the charter school system, I definitely second guess them. To me, they are comparable to Billy D. Williams. I don't know if y'all remember back in the day, Billy D. Williams used to have billboards in the hood with him drinking Coke Coke 45, right? And they the malt liquor and whatever it was, the slogan for that, they had him all over. They had him as the face of something that was extremely harmful to the Black community, because they understood if they put a white person with a hood, right, with drinking that, but we would stay away from it, right? We wouldn't want that to enter our bodies. But if you put somebody who Black people loves and Black people adore and Black people are attracted to, and you make them the face of oppression, unfortunately, our people are going to go for it. So in my opinion, some of these individuals that they put in front of the charter school movement, those faces, those Black faces are strategic, because they know if they put a racist white in front of the charter school movement, we would say no. But if they put a Black person and they pay them enough money to get in front, the overseers were Black. We have to understand, every Black person ain't for Black people. All skin folk ain't kinfolk. So sometimes you absolutely see Black people as the face of the charter school movement, or Black people as the people that say that you should pick these charter schools that have not been providing a service to our students. You should pick those over the public schools. You have to understand, I have never seen an individual who's a charter school lobbyist that didn't have a contract with somebody and they weren't getting paid for what they are doing. I do this for free. This is what I do for free. I advocate for free. I don't have no checks coming. My job doesn't pay me to do what I'm doing. There are no organizations reaching out to pay me to speak the truth. I do that because I know this is the best thing for my people and generally the best thing for children. But in my opinion, Black people who push the charter school movement are doing so because they get a financial or some other incentive in order to push that charter school movement. So we just went over the numbers and we saw how those numbers relate to other comparable cities in Philadelphia. And so then what can we do about it? What can
In fact, let's do this, Dana.
Sure.
We got 60 seconds, and in those 60 seconds, tell us what can we do about that. But before that, let me just repeat something that Dana said earlier. And I said, if you are impressed with this appetizer of Dana Carter, check out the full course every Saturday during the Radio Courtroom Show, 1 to 3 p.m. WRD. Dana, final 60 seconds.
Here's what I will say. If you really want to know what to do, then you should join me on WURD on Saturdays, because there's a lot. Like, I have a lot of things in place, a lot of recommendations that I gave to the School District of Philadelphia. And I told you all that I would give those recommendations to you. But I also told you all that I start off here and I end off in somewhere else. But hopefully between the beginning and the end, you all have some information that you can use in order to help you navigate the educational landscape of this in the city of Philadelphia. And if you want more information about what's going on in Philadelphia public schools, what's going on in Philadelphia charter schools, what's going on in the school board, and what's going on in the nation as it relates to education, please join me every Saturday on WURD with this handsome gentleman in this amazing suit on Saturdays. His show is from 1 to 3 o'clock. I come on at 2:30. So if you want more information, join me on WURD.
Dana Carter is so thorough and she's full of passion. Check her out every Saturday, WRD 96.1 FM. Before I go, let me just thank our producer, our engineer extraordinaire, Riley, who put this thing together. I want to thank the Up Against the Law. I want to thank Amy Jane Cohen. I want to thank you all, especially for tuning in. I'm going to end today's show like I end every show. It goes like this. Think Black, I'm out.